Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is BGFH, and I am back for another little quick event update video. Over the last month or so, we have gotten to see what Microsoft and Google have in store for us over the next year or so. And today was Apple's turn. And yeah, because they were kicking off their WWDC, their developer conference today, their annual conference. And, they always have the keynote where they unveil, usually they unveil, new Mac OS, new iOS, a few other little bits and bobs. Not usually too much hardware, but they did do some of that today, which I'll get into shortly. But, I don't know. Even in my other earlier videos, I was kind of thinking that, I wasn't really expecting a lot of wow from Apple this WWDC keynote. And, based on that and just what people were sort of predicting would happen, it was pretty accurate. And, I guess the best thing I could say about the event today was, some stuff happened. They're going to come out with some stuff. This is likely going to be a shorter video. I don't have any gameplay footage going on in the background. I really didn't know what really to cover, so we're just looking at the Apple homepage while I babble. So again, this is not going to be a comprehensive rundown of every little thing about what happened at the keynote today. This is just going to be some of the things that stood out to me, good or bad, or meh, otherwise, or whatever. So they started off, of course, it's been predicted for a long time, and all I would have to say is about damn time. They started out with Apple TV, and their big thing was, you're going to see a lot more with Apple TV later this year. But we are going to announce that Amazon Prime Video is going to come to the Apple TV, which is good, because that is where I have chosen to basically purchase a lot of my media, because back when we really started doing this digital media stuff, you had Apple, which was, again, a lot more restrictive. It's like, you got to do iTunes, you got to be on Apple, or, you got iTunes for the PC, but at the time it was DRM. It wasn't just, standard format, so I'm like, I'm not going that way. And, Google and Amazon were like, yeah, you know what, we're going to be open and play our stuff wherever. So, yeah, I've been building up my movies and music stuff on Amazon for quite a while now, and I've amassed quite a decent video library, so I'm glad to see that's coming to Apple TV. They didn't say when, they just said later this year, so I don't know, probably the summer or fall around Iowa, pretty much when the operating system updates come out, your TV OS, your iOS, etc. So that was cool. I should say they started out with a really weird video. I don't know what the heck was going on. I guess it was to represent, some people were thinking it was to represent like the data outage that happened. It was kind of amusing, but kind of dumb. They talked a little bit about watchOS. I'm still sort of interested in a smartwatch, primarily probably an Apple Watch, just for the fact of it has the most accessibility from what I can tell out there. And I figure I already have an iPhone, so it'll probably integrate pretty well. I've almost toyed with the idea of getting a Generation 1 for basic, but it's been long enough where I think I might just wait for next year's model, and if that one's really good, I might look into that, or just, again, get the Generation 2 and say, whatever. But it could be an interesting thing down the line, but I haven't really had the urge to get a smartwatch. Basically, they're going to have optimal, performance improvements for watchOS 4. New faces, a Siri face, where you can, kind of have your Siri notifications and stuff. That seems like the most practical, the most useful of the bunch. But then they're like, hey, if you like Disney, you can get a bunch of other, Disney characters like Buzz Lightyear or something. I don't know. Sure. Whatever. They really didn't spend much time on Apple Watch. Then they kind of went into Mac OS, and they're not even giving it a really new iteration. I mean, they are, but it's like, they're not going from like, the, I don't know, lion to or tiger to lion, or lions and tigers and bears, or whatever. But they're going from Sierra to High Sierra. Everyone on Twitter was joking like, yeah, the Stoner operating system, or they even made a crack about it at the keynote. But yeah, so it's going to be kind of, seems like more of an iteration year, which is fine. I mean, I don't have a lot vested in Mac OS. I mean, I use one at work for some stuff on occasion because we demo it and everything. But personally, I'm much more in the Windows side of things, so it didn't really do much for me. The main thing they were really talking about there was that they have some. I don't even remember what they didn't spend a whole lot of time on the basic Mac OS stuff, but really where they went to was they talked about being able to do VR development in Mac OS. They're optimizing their whole Metal platform, which is kind of their multimedia platform. They're calling it Metal 2. Again, we were joking on Twitter, a few of us, based on, what was it, High Sierra, I thought they were going to call it Heavy Metal, and they're like, no, that's way too clever, don't give them credit. And we were, and then it was like, oh, well, yeah, but then just think of all the yearly iterations. We could go, we could go death metal and glam metal, and then someone's like, yeah, and we could go progressive metal when they want to make it like they're making progress. And it was just dumb. It was a fun conversation on Twitter. But, they're talking about VR development and the whole Metal platform. So, the innards of your typical Mac are not what you would call powerhouse graphic powerhouses, I mean, yeah, you can play games on them, but, again, if you are going to be, a AAA game player, and you want to play them at mid to high detail, you're going to want to probably run on a PC. You can get by with indie games and, some older titles and things like that, but so their solution is, of course, long live the dongle, the new trend of Apple. They're going to have some external GPU solution. Now, they've done this on PCs. There's some like crazy gamer laptops where you can have like the core laptop, and then you have this like USB 3 or USB-C shell where you cram a graphics card in there, and it sounds kind of like that's what they're going for with like this ATI or this AMD Radeon package. Now, and again, I've never been really an AMD person. I've tried AMD in the past a long time ago, and I always had problems with it. So, I'm an NVIDIA guy through and through. But yeah, so, if you want to do VR development, and you want to spend a whole bunch of money and have another dongle and what have you, you can think about doing that. They are refreshing their Mac lineup, so you're going to have you can pre-order them today. They're shipping today, I think. They have basically new models of your MacBook Pro. You got your 13-inch, your 15-inch, basically updating the generation of processor, a couple other little minor updates. And then they're starting both with their MacBook Air and their MacBook Pro line. They're looking at an introductory. They're kind of having a version of it that you can get for a starting price of $1,200. So if you're wanting to just get in an entry level machine, you don't need a lot of extra horsepower. Might not be too bad if you're in the Mac ecosystem. But that's really kind of what they showed. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting some other stuff. I think they talked about like photos or something, and I don't know, the Mac's just I was kind of fading in and out during that part of the presentation. But yeah, I mean, they're updating, their Mac computers. Now, it's not shipping until late this year, but they did also unveil a new iMac, the iMac Pro, which is this 27-inch monstrosity, single, your all-in-one thing, but they're basically trying to cram all this extra hardware and power into it, which, it looks decent. I mean, it's got the space gray look to it, but it looks like your iMac, 5K screen. But here's the thing. You're going to get an iMac Pro, you're going to be spending a hell of a lot of money. Their entry, I don't even know what, maxed out is going to be, but like they were talking about the different options, and their base model of that thing is going to be $5,000. So, if you're going to want a powerful computer, like I could buy like probably 2 Windows 10, like pretty fully loaded PCs for one MacBook or for one iMac Pro. They're bragging about like, oh, you got your 10, 12 core, even an 18 core model, and 16 gigs of video RAM, and all this stuff, which is good, but God, you're paying out the ass for that stuff. I guess if Apple really decides to, do what they keep doing and like, well, okay, here's our generation refresh. We're going to refresh our computer models once every, 4 or 5 years. But that's still a lot of money. I mean, like I said, I had my computer built a couple years ago for roughly about $2,000. And this thing's going to last me probably, I typically refresh mine every 4 or 5 years. So I spent half that, and I got, a lot of storage, a lot of RAM, not a problem. So, it's a neat looking machine, but, if you want to pay the Apple tax and you have a lot of money to spare, the screens are always great. I mean, they look really nice, but that price tag is a little high. So, by the time you max it out, that's the baseline is a 5,000. I bet you're going to be looking at well over 10, 15 grand for a tweaked out machine. And with the speed that technology moves, are you really going to want to pay that much for a top end, like, spec'd out machine? I don't know. So moving along from the Mac, we talked about iOS some. iOS 11, of course. They talked a lot about photos. They're going to have some new stuff with the photos. Going to sync all of your, do a better job of syncing throughout devices, and even your Messages app. You're going to sync your conversations on a newly activated device, which is good. A little different or easier way to do those little like stickers and like little weird flashy things that they showed off last year. Don't care. Photos, they showed the new control center. Basically, they've taken that and they made it into a lot of little smaller buttons with the Force Touch features. So instead of having, like 3 different kind of, you can swipe left or right to go to these different panels for your control center, they're just going to put it under one, which, I don't know, looked okay. I don't know. So there's that. They didn't mention a dark mode. Like, I'm secretly hoping they're leaving that for their iPhone event, because, like I said, if they're going to do an OLED phone like everyone is suggesting, there's a huge advantage to having a dark mode, not just because people want it, but because if you are running OLED, the only time that the screen has to be lit or powered is when it's like, if it's black, you don't have to power that part of the screen. You don't have to light it up. It's not like a LCD or anything like that where you still have some ambient kind of light going behind it. So there's actually a lot of advantage to having a dark mode, a lot of power saving potential there. So I'm not out of hope yet, but they didn't say anything about it. So I don't know. Like I said, photos. They talked again about their camera stuff. Their little, I forget what they even, the little picture things where you you showed a picture, but it takes like 3 or 4 other pictures and kind of loops them together in like almost like an animated GIF kind of a thing. Active photos, maybe, I forget what they're called. It shows how much I use them. I don't think I've ever used them. Their big portrait mode. I guess, And then they talked about the iPad. Now, there are some interesting things there. People were speculating that maybe or hopefully they would have some sort of drag and drop, a lot easier way to kind of multitask and move things around. And they kind of did do that. You're actually going to be able to add a lot more things to the dock, so you can kind of cram a whole bunch more icons on there like you would on the Mac, the Mac's dock at the bottom of the screen there. And then you use a lot with like long presses and different things, so like you can easily and then drag an item from the dock onto another application, and then you can kind of basically have it do the split screen thing where you have like the little thing on the side, or you split it half and half or whatever you want to do. And then you can drag from one application to another. So, you want to drag from the address bar into an email message. You want to drag a photo from your photo library into your email. To me, that's just stuff that should... they made it sound like this. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but they made it sound like this groundbreaking new thing. But I hate to disappoint you guys, but other operating systems have been doing that for years. It's kind of funny that you're just getting to that now. But, nevertheless, it's good for there. Here's the thing that kind of baffles me. They are also introducing a Files app for iOS 11. I don't know to what extent this is going to work. It's basically like a centralized place where you can use iCloud or your Dropbox, your OneDrive, your other services, any kind of files that are on your device. They talked about having files and, nested folders, things like just like you would on, any kind of operating system, a modern computer operating system. But if I understand this correctly, here's the dumb part. From what I understand, this is only an iPad thing, for the iPad Pro. Why? Okay, I get you're going for productivity. You want to be able to do stuff on the iPad. But then if it's only going to be the iPad, next year, but now we've made it, it's now possible. You can do this on your phone, and they'll make a big deal out of it a year or two from now. Why would you... It's so damn frustrating. Like I've said on a lot of my iOS or hardware review videos, one of the hardest things that has been for me to get used to on the iOS platform is not having a nice way to do file management. You go back to even the Windows Mobile days. I ran Windows Mobile. You can do this on Android. You connect your device to the computer. You hear a little hardware found sound. Your device appears as a drive. Guess what? You can use your Windows Explorer or your Finder, and you can copy stuff back and forth. What a novel frickin' idea, right? I mean, even if they don't give you an access to the operating system folders and files, I don't care. That's fine. But just to have this, main repository, this main area where I can put my own folder structure in, I know that they're like, but people are scared to learn files and folders, and it's, too complicated. But there are just some tasks that I think that are the workflow, especially when you're looking at productivity. It's just nice to be able to have that file folder structure. And frankly, to me, files and folders are not that complicated. That is a very core, basic computer task. If you can't figure out how to do a simple file and folder, you're going to have problems in general. So why they're limiting that to the iPad and not to the phone, I could be wrong. But everything that I've read and watched so far has indicated to me that this Files app is only going to be on the iPad for now. I could really, really, really use that on my phone. Now, the other thing, again, like I said, I don't know, is let's say I'm running Windows and I do connect my iPad to my Windows PC. Will it show up as a drive in my Windows Explorer where I could at least copy my files and folders to that, basically that Files app where other apps could access it? I don't know. That's one of the things that I'm sort of curious to try with iOS 11, but I don't know. It just seems like this weird, like, hey, look, we're kind of doing stuff, but we're not going to go all the way with it. So we're making progress. Very, very slowly, but we're making progress, I think. Speaking of iPads, they are introducing a new iPad Pro. So if you have an older iPad or don't have an iPad but would like one, they're actually making a new iPad that you can pre-order now. They're shipping next week, where it is a 10.5-inch iPad. So basically, it sounds like it's actually very close to the same size as the 9.7, but they've optimized the device space where you don't have as much bezel. So you're going to get like in a more compact package, but you're actually going to have, more edge-to-edge screen a little bit better. So, that's actually not too bad. Like, there are things I really love about my iPad Pro, but sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes I think can be a little big and clunky or a little heavy. I'm not going to upgrade my iPad Pro. It's plenty fast. It works fine for me. But if you have an older iPad, might be a good one to look into. They also said they're going to be starting with their iPads. Their minimum is going to be 64 gigs for storage instead of 32 or, God forbid, 16. So there is that. That's a good thing as well. But yeah, so they really concentrated a little bit more on iPad this time, iOS 11 and iPad. So you're going to have the productivity features, the drag and drop, the Files app, which I really, really, really think needs to also be universal, iPhone, iPad, but alas, it doesn't seem like that's the case. They talked about Siri, of course. Supposedly it's going to be getting better. They have this kind of device awareness where it kind of looks at what you're doing on your devices and what, based on like where you are, what time it is. Kind of some of the stuff, again, I would say playing catch up to what Google and Microsoft have already been doing for quite a while in some form. But, again, they're making it sound like it's this miraculous, or actually what is their magical new feature. They use that. They like to use that word. So, I hope Siri is smarter and better because Siri is kind of falling behind. They did show off they're having new voices for Siri, so a new male, a new female voice, a lot more kind of natural sounding, just like something you would get out of your Google Home or your Echo. So, no problem there. Especially if the voices are good. We'll see how the fluidity is at faster speeds. Maybe you'll be able to use those as voiceover voices the way you can now. So we'll see. And then their one more thing, or their last kind of a thing. Let's see. I'm just trying to before we go to that. I'm just trying to think if I missed anything. They talked a little bit about like the phone apps, or the their maps. So they're like a bunch of your stuff for when you're in the car, kind of a do not disturb while driving mode, putting that in there, a little lane assist with Apple Maps, a little bit of indoor navigation for airports and malls, although the malls are only in like your biggest of cities, so they're not, at least to start with, they're not anywhere near where I am. So be interesting to see that when it eventually does roll out to more cities. But there you go. So the last couple things, they started talking about music, and yeah, they actually did unveil new hardware. So we've got new Macs, updated Macs. We got a new 10.5-inch iPad. And, yep, the rumored speaker is also coming out in December. They're calling it the HomePod. HomePod, I don't know. Sure, whatever. They talked about like the different ways that it isolates different frequencies of how it can draw out the different elements of a song, like your bass or your vocals or whatever, and then it mixes them to make this really rich sound. And I mean they might sound really good. I don't know, but so they mainly focus on music, but then at the end they're like, oh yeah, and I can do some Siri stuff too. So I don't know that they have a whole lot of faith in. I don't know that they have a whole lot of faith in Siri, or they don't want to draw as much attention to it, just because even when they were talking about Siri earlier, it was kind of like, yeah, we're getting some new stuff, but they didn't really want to show too much of it, because it still doesn't seem like it's going to be as close to Microsoft and Google, and even Amazon for that matter. So, I don't know. It's basically going to be like your Echo or your Google Home, but it's going to be your HomePod. But, again, hope you have a thick wallet, because a heavy wallet, because each one of these suckers are going to run you $350 when they come out in December. So, they're like, oh yeah, they sound great by themselves, but you put them together, you can buy two of them. Yeah, I could, but I don't think I'm going to spend $700 on two speakers. Probably not going to happen. So, again, you kind of got that little Apple, you got the brand name tax, your Apple, your Bose tax, that kind of a thing. Now, like I said, they might be good. I mean, it's too early to say. I haven't had any hands-on with them, of course, via an Apple store or anything like that. But, you've got your anywhere between $40 and $150 competitors, and the Google Home does not sound bad, at least to my opinion. I mean, for what it is, for as small as it is, and for what it is, it actually doesn't sound half bad. That is definitely a little bit harder of a pill to swallow. So, and again, they're kind of going after the Sonos speakers, the Sonos crowd, where you can kind of link up these speakers and have kind of the music synced up, around your house, which is a cool thing. But, I don't know. I mean, it'll be for some people, but God knows I have enough smart speakers already. I don't need another one, and I don't intend to spend $350 on getting one. So you probably will not be seeing that video of that on my channel anytime soon. And that's pretty much it. That's Apple WWDC Keynote in a nutshell. I mean, I'm sure I missed little tidbits here and there. There is a new Monument Valley sequel that's out today if you want to check that out. It's a game that, the first game I looked at, but I haven't really tried to get into it yet, so I should really give the first one a look again. But it's kind of like this cool, kind of really artsy puzzle game that people really like. So the sequel's out today also. They did talk about augmented reality a little bit. That was the one thing that again, virtual reality, even augmented reality, they're going to have some of that stuff, that framework in iOS 11. So it'll be interesting to see not just games, but like maybe what kind of other practical uses they'll find for it. Like, I wonder if, I don't know, I mean, I wonder if there'll be any kind of like assistive technology type of uses for augmented reality. I can't necessarily think of them right off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any, because I'm sure there are. But, they didn't mention anything about glasses or goggles or anything like that, or a headset for VR or AR, so they just did a kind of a little demo with their phone, so, that'll be something to kind of peek around and play with later this year as well. But, that's something early on right now. But yeah, So it was, in one way, it was really underwhelming. I was kind of waiting for like one thing that would be like, oh, that's the one feature that I really wanted. Like, if they would have had it fully iOS wide, iPhone, iPad, an actual file system that said, guess what? You can copy things back and forth from your PC or Mac, back and forth to your iPhone and iPad. That would have been a big deal to me. If they would have at least kind of mentioned a dark mode. It's a minor thing, but for me and a lot of other low vision users who kind of find the bright white look of the current iOS, or a lot of operating systems these days, that would have been, again, something that, like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I'm excited about that. But they didn't. But, like I said, I mean, if you're invested in the Mac ecosystem, and you have an older Mac and you're thinking about upgrading, yeah, today might have been might have been of reasonable interest to you. But, like, for me, I don't use a Mac personally. I use an iPad and an iPhone, but I'm still definitely PC Windows. So the Mac stuff really didn't do it for me. The iOS stuff, like, again, the messages stuff where you can, like, oh, put a picture in there, or put a sticker pack, or make fireworks. Like, I don't care. I really don't. I don't know. Just like I said, a lot of their stuff was meh, whatever. We'll see. Maybe they'll announce some kind of minor things over the next little while when developers start getting iOS, or you get a public, it'll open up to the public later in June. So if you wouldn't want to do it necessarily on your primary device, but if you have a secondary device that you can play with, you could go into the public beta of macOS or iOS and see what you're doing there. Maybe we'll hear some stuff out of that, or like I said, when they have their phone event later this year, maybe they'll kind of touch on, oh, here's some of the things of iOS 11 that are going to be useful in the new phone, and some of that can carry back. Like, I don't see why a dark mode couldn't be, it'll be optimized for OLED, but why couldn't everyone else have it? So, and if they only did that, like if the dark mode was only an OLED thing, oh man, would I be pissed. But we won't even go there. Anyway, yeah. And then you have your speaker, your home pod, for $350. So, yeah. I don't know. That's kind of what we got. Those are my impressions. I mean, I'm not really excited about much of it. I'm sure I missed a few tidbits here and there, but anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, or the kind of my summary thoughts on WWDC 2017 Keynote. I'm just going to upload this right away and release it to you guys as a kind of a bonus video. Now, quick update. So I'll be doing some kind of, I haven't decided which video I'm going to release for you guys in the next, on Wednesday. But we'll do a regular video on Wednesday. Saturday, I'll probably do a regular one. And then this weekend, it's starting earlier and earlier every year, I swear. E3 2017 is actually going to be starting with some of their pre-conferences. There's like one or two conferences already on Saturday. We thought it was early last year when they started, or a couple of years ago when they started, like Sunday night, you had one or two conferences. Well, now we've got a couple on Saturday. I think there's one or two on Sunday. We got a couple on Monday, and then Tuesday will be the remainder. Tuesday will be the Nintendo event, or whatever the heck they're going to do. So everybody else is going to be Saturday through Monday. I will be home for all those days, so I will be definitely watching those various keynotes. And I don't know, again, I haven't really looked at the schedule too much to know which events are on which days, so I don't know how many kind of impressions or summary videos I might do over those few days. But yeah, if it's like the last couple of years, expect a few E3 related videos over the next week or so. And again, follow me on Twitter. Twitter is at BGFH79, and I'll be kind of giving some intermittent thoughts and links to the videos when they're out and things like that as usual. So yeah, we got our main press things done, but now we're jumping into E3, which I'm very curious about. See what Nintendo does with their Switch now that it's out. We got Microsoft and its Scorpio. We got PS4 Pro, which people seem to be kind of lukewarm on right now. Microsoft needs just more games. But yeah, I don't know. It should be kind of an interesting show. You're going to have your PC gaming show. You're going to have your third-party stuff. There's like a Bethesda conference. Those have been usually pretty good the last couple years they've had them. And, EA, Ubisoft, that kind of stuff. So, we'll wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. And until next time, I will talk to you guys again later.